In this lecture, we are going to learn how to make a gradient in Illustrator. Here we have a black shape, and now I'm going to apply a gradient to this shape. So I'm going to put the cursor right here, go to Gradient Tool. I'm going to click, and with the Gradient Tool, I'm going to click on the shape once. And now we have a gradient. It goes from white to black. I can click on the white on this point and I can move it on the slider like this. Same thing with the black, I can click and move it on the slider just like this. By clicking on this point, this white point, I can change the level of the gradient. I'm gonna put it back in the center. And if I click and drag on the shape right here, I can determine the direction of the gradient just like this. So now I'm creating my own slider just by clicking and dragging. Control Z several times to go back. Here the color is set to white. I can double click and I can change the color. I'm going to choose light blue. Here same thing, I can double click and change the color to dark blue. And now we have a gradient going from light blue to dark blue. If I place the cursor right here, notice the cursor has changed. There's a plus sign now. That means I can create a new color. I'm gonna click and create a new color. Double click and I can change it to pink like this. I'm gonna create another color by putting the cursor right here and click, double click. I'm gonna set this to yellow. I'm gonna open the gradient window now by clicking on this button, or you can go to window and then click on gradient. Here we have the 4 colors right here. The gradient is made of 4 colors. We can move the colors just like we did on the slider like this. I can change the level by changing these points like this. I can select a color, double click and change it if I want to, like this. I can change the opacity of a certain color. For example, this yellow right now is set to 100. I can change this to 50%. Now I can change it to 0%. Now it goes from pink to transparent to dark blue. I'm gonna put this back to 100%. If I want to delete certain color, I just click, make sure it's selected, and then click here, delete stop, and now it's gone. I'm gonna put this in the center. I can flip colors or reverse gradient by clicking on this button. And now you notice what's happening. We flip the colors on the slider. Here we have type. Right now it's set to linear gradient. I can show you other types, radial gradient for example. Click and this is the result we get. Of course we can move the colors like this on the slider just like we did with the linear gradient. I can move this white point also like this. Here we have a circle. I can click on this point and I can make the circle bigger, and by doing that I'm changing the shape of the gradient. I can click on this point and I can change the shape of the ellipse like this, and I can click on this point and I can rotate the ellipse just like this. I can also click and drag on the shape and decide how I want the radial gradient to be just by clicking and dragging. The last type of gradient I want to show you is freeform gradient. I'm gonna click and notice now we have 4 points. I can double click on this point. I can change the color. I'm going to choose red. I can double click on this color, choose yellow. Double click on this color, choose green. Double click on this color and I'm going to choose blue. I can click on the points just like this and I can move them anywhere I want inside the shape, and you see what type of result we are getting. Can move like this, can move like this, and each point also has like a radius which determines the spread of the color. I can click and drag, make the radius bigger, and I can, by doing that, I'm increasing the spread of the color. I'm going to do the same thing here. Click and I can increase the spread just like this by changing the radius. I can click anywhere and I can create new colors like this. I'm creating new point. I'm going to set this to let's say pink, and this to white like this. And if I want to delete a certain point, I make sure it's selected and then I click here, delete stop, click here, delete stop. Here we have Joe. Right now it's set to points, create gradient color points. So when we click, we are creating points. We can change this to lines, and now I'm going to show you. I can click, 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 and now I just created a line like this. I press escape to stop. Now I can move the lines by moving the points just like this. I'm moving the line by moving the points like this. And of course I can double click and I can set this to any color I want.